Hey Nesters, welcome back to the channel. Today I am going to be doing something that I've wanted to do for a really long time. So today I am participating in the collaboration. I'm going to be part of the Pumpkin Palooza here on YouTube. There's a bunch of other YouTube creators that are going to be making different pumpkin recipes, so be sure to go check out the playlist. I'll link it in the comments below and the description below as well when it's available. I think she's putting it out tomorrow, but there's going to be a hashtag you can follow, so just click the hashtag if you want to see some other recipes today, okay? So you guys know I love to thrift, and this is one of the things I always enjoy picking up. My confession is I've never used the recipes on these. I've always just kind of got them for decor. I like the way they look, and I like to put them out on display, you know, depending on the season. So I have a pumpkin pie recipe. This is a Country Harvest recipe from 1983. This is made in the USA. Nice little stoneware, oven-safe pie plate here. Very 1970s. It's 1983, but it still looks very 1970s to me. Love the colors to it. Now, I have kind of a little bit of a beef with a lot of the pumpkin things because I do not like nutmeg at all. Not really into the cloves, and that happens to be on this recipe. So, you know, I never really follow recipes. And one other thing I noticed with this, it actually doesn't even have the pie crust recipe on this, which I think is kind of a bummer. I didn't realize that when I purchased it. And I'm gonna have to go check my other ones and see if those ones also don't have the pie crust, because it kind of defeats the purpose of having your little, you know, recipe ready to go if you don't have the pie crust on there as well. Luckily, I do have my own pie crust recipe that I use all the time, so I'm just gonna use that one, and we'll try out their filling, sort of. I'm gonna kind of use the recipe as a guide, but I'm gonna do it my own way, per usual. So let's go ahead and give this a try, and let's see how it goes. Today's Pyrex we are using is the Cinderella bowl in the early American pattern, produced from 1962 to 1971, and that is 22 karat gold in the pattern itself. Pretty cool. Alright, so let's go ahead and start out with making our pie crust recipe. So we're going to need 3 cups of unbleached all-purpose flour. I prefer organic. We also will add to that 1 teaspoon of salt. And then we're going to need 2 sticks of butter. You want to cut it up into cubes to make it easier to blend into the dough. This first part I always find easier to kind of just hand mix and kind of smush the butter into the flour a lot easier and get that consistency that you're looking for. This is what you want it to look like, kind of like crumbs, and when you squish it, it will kind of stick together like that. So that's what you want to look for. Make sure it's all incorporated together. We're going to need 1 farm fresh chicken egg for this recipe. The other 3 also go into the pumpkin pie filling, but we just need 1 for the dough. I always like to crack my eggs into a separate dish just on the off chance something weird happens, a shell falls in, or since they are farm fresh eggs, you never know if something might be a little off in it, so you always want to check it out. So I also just added 1 tablespoon of distilled white vinegar, and I'm adding in 4 tablespoons of cold water. Now we mix it up and incorporate it all together. This is what it looks like once it's all mixed together. Now I did make enough to supply 2 pie crusts, so I'm going to freeze both of them, but only leave 1 in the freezer for just a little bit while I am making my filling, and the other one I will have for another time, which is something I highly recommend doing. So we are using our other 3 eggs for the filling. I cracked them open. I'm going to go ahead and whisk those up real quick like the other one. I washed out my early American bowl and I'm going to use that again for the filling. So let's go ahead and add the ingredients. We got some ginger, we got some cinnamon, the eggs, the canned pumpkin, some sugar. So to start, we whisk up our 3 eggs and add those to the bowl. To the eggs, we add 2 3/4 cup of canned pumpkin. The recipe is calling for 1 cup of sugar. I'm actually going to do half brown sugar and half white sugar, just to add a little bit more flavor since I am cutting out the nutmeg and the cloves for the recipe. We're adding 3/4 teaspoon of salt. I like the Redmond's real salt. Now we are adding 1.5 teaspoons of cinnamon. The recipe says this is optional, but I do enjoy ginger, so we're going to go ahead and do the 3/4 teaspoon ginger that they asked to. Now they are asking for 2 1/4 cup of evaporated milk. I don't keep evaporated milk on hand. What I do have is heavy whipping cream and regular organic whole milk, so I'm using a combination of the two. So I have a cup and 1/4 of the heavy whipping cream and 1 cup of the whole organic milk. And the recipe doesn't call for it, but I'm going to go ahead and add a tablespoon of vanilla as well. Now we're going to mix it all up, and eventually it's going to look more like pumpkin again. After a little bit of stirring, you can see the pumpkin color is starting to come through, and it's just about there now. Alright, so I got it all mixed up. Now we got to add it into our pie crust. Alright, so my pie dough is cold now. I put down some wax paper. I just prefer to put it on the wax paper. Keeps it from sticking too much, easier to roll out and transfer onto the pie plate itself. So I like to do that. We got our ball here. Let's go ahead and roll it out. It's always a little difficult to work with when you first get it out. It's cold, right? So I gotta push it down here. Usually I push it down a couple times with a rolling pin, and I kind of push it out with my hands a bit, and then I go back over with the rolling pin. It seems to work the best for me. Cold dough is always really hard to work with. I kind of just use my fist, honestly, and kind of work it out. And once it's thin enough, it usually will roll out just decent for me, but I always want to work with a cold dough. It seems to make the crust a little bit flakier, a little bit nicer, so it's worth the extra effort. And remember, I put this in the freezer, so it's a little bit harder. It takes a little bit of work to get it to roll out properly, but I did get there eventually. Next time I might just do the fridge. The freezer, it just sounded good at the moment. I thought it wouldn't be too hard, but it did end up a little bit harder than I expected. I think I got the dough about where I want it. It said it wanted 10 inches, so I think it looks about 10 inches here. So I'm going to pick this up and go ahead and flip it over and transfer it onto my pumpkin plate. Right, so I just like to pick this up like this, and then I just flip it over, and the wax paper comes right off. You can peel it, and I don't have to deal with trying to transfer it too much. So I like that little trick. It says to flute the edges and pour in, sprinkle the top with cinnamon. Bake 425 for 15 minutes. Gonna push it down a little bit, and we're gonna tuck this in underneath around it. The extra we'll tuck in underneath. Nice. A little extra here. I don't really need that underneath. Tuck it under a little bit here. I don't need. The nice thing about this pie plate, after you get the tucks, they actually have it like kind of pre-fluted, so there's spots on the side where you kind of just press it into. So it kind of flutes it for you. You're not really having to pinch as much. So we got our pie crust. And now we're gonna go ahead and fill it up with our mixture. And go ahead, use the Cinderella pour spout and fill this up. Oh, she's full. Right, so we have our pumpkin pie filled. Now we're gonna go ahead and top it with some cinnamon and put it in the oven. So you're gonna be my taste tester?
Yes, and I'm excited.
All right, see how it tastes.
Here we go.
You know I don't follow recipes, so hopefully my improvisions were good.
Come out very good. It smells like that pecan pie we just got, and it tastes very similar to the pecan pie we just had.
Really?
But the pecan was like sickening sweet. This is not sickening sweet. It's good.
It's only half a cup of white sugar and half a cup of brown sugar, so.
Crust is good too. It's still like firm, but not like dry.
Nice. I'm glad you like it.
Good.
Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know if you'd like me to do more videos like this in the future. If you're new to the channel, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I do a lot of thrifting, thrift with me, a little bit of reselling content, mostly based on home decor and the vintage lifestyle, all right? So we'll catch you in the next one. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.